Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well, or as well as you can, given these unprecedented times we're currently living through right now. I know it's tough for all of us, whether you're a full time photographer and trying to figure out what to do to juggle your business and keep things going, or you're a hobbyist and you got another job and trying to balance that out, or people having to work from home and got kids at home and you're trying to do the parent and the teaching and the working, and there's just a lot going on right now. Or if you're a medical professional out there, I can only imagine how demanding your job has to be right now. But I thank you for everything that you're doing to help us, as well as grocery store workers and delivery drivers and all of you that are keeping things going. Thank you very much. It's so appreciated. Yet hopefully you're healthy, your family's healthy, you're able to stay healthy. I think that's one of the most important things that we can all hope for as we ride out this storm of this pandemic that's happening right now. While we're at home, this is a good chance for us to see what we can photograph that's very near our house for nature landscape photography. So I'm not talking about the landscape from a urban perspective, but nature. And when I'm talking about nature, I'm not even talking about the man-made nature like manicured gardens. I'm talking about how can we go out there and find those photos that might look like well, you took it out at some rugged remote landscape or somewhere very close. You really can't tell the difference. Here's a scene from a nearby park, and you can see there's a lot going on. It's pretty busy. There's some interesting elements, but it doesn't really do it for me when you're looking at how busy it is. There's some bare dirt patches. However, if we try to think about taking just a piece of this, we can create something a little bit more interesting and impactful. So more specifically, I was looking down at this fern that was hovering over this red rock and a little shallow stream coming through. And with that, this is what I ended up taking with a telephoto. So I go from a wide angle to a telephoto, and I found this pretty interesting scene with this fan-like fern just hovering right over the red background. You might be thinking, well, Adrian, I don't live in a real photogenic place and I don't have those type of opportunities here. Well, that may be true. You may live in those type of areas, but I can say just in the last couple of years, traveling to states that don't necessarily come to mind as far as destination locations for nature photography, I was just sitting in my hotel room just looking out at a forest or a stream area, some sort of just more rough, rugged nature space, and knew something was down there. If I would have had the time and my camera and went down there exploring, I felt like something is definitely down there. So I feel like wherever you live, there's somewhere within close walking distance, biking distance, or a short drive away that you can take these kind of photos. And sometimes you don't need to go far at all. This one happens to be right in my own backyard. I tend to not stay on top of yard maintenance maybe as well as I should. Not because of laziness or anything of that nature. It's more just priorities, and there's only so much time in the day. Yeah, here can be a beautiful result of letting things get overgrown, a little more rough. You got these ferns growing up that have been there forever, and these weeds with some flowers popping through. It's this nice little scene here in my yard. And it could have been taken in the Columbia Gorge, you know, a little ways away from home or much further away. There could have been a lot of places, but I literally just went probably 20 to 30 feet out my back door to see this particular scene. I admit to not taking as many local photographs as well, and usually thinking about other places to go. And when I'm talking about close, I'm talking about close, like places that are less than a 10-mile drive, say, from your house. And that's not a hard number. I'm just talking about somewhere to try to stay local. We have all of these rules and guidelines we're trying to follow as we try to flatten the curve for this pandemic. So the goal with that is that you're staying as close to home as you can, and obviously keeping the social distancing in mind when you travel anywhere, even near your place. Here's a good example of using the right camera angle and lens to take away all the unwanted distractions. So in this scene of this beautiful dense fog moving through the forest here, and when I say here, it is, you know, locally right here in Portland near my house, I did that to take away the distractions of the foreground down below. It wasn't that photogenic, and there's also hikers and walkers coming through there, and I didn't want to take the tops of the trees because they were really much more messy and unorganized, and I focused more on the tree trunk, so I used a telephoto lens for this particular scene. There are some advantages as well to this type of photography. So one of them is most likely you're going to have the place to yourself. You're not going to be jockeying for spots with other landscape photographers or other tourists that you might get if you go to some other more popular location. Here's a photo of a maiden fern, and I was after a photo like this for a number of years. I wanted something that was kind of a spiral circle shape. And when I saw this, it jumped out at me, and I was like, this is it. Yet I didn't find it where I expected to. I thought I'd find it a ways away in the Columbia River Gorge and some hiking trail, or maybe even some other further away location. Turns out it was much closer than that. It was only maybe a 7-mile drive from my house on a nature trail that I was walking on, was where I ended up finding this fern. The other advantage is from an environment standpoint. It is a much smaller footprint for us to look locally for our photos rather than me traveling much further away. Now, I'll fully admit I'm going to travel and go see new places, and I'm not going to stop driving or flying to locations. That won't necessarily happen. Yet, the more we can think about looking for those photos closer to our home, that helps balance out from all the resources it does consume for us to go much further and see locations that are way out of the way from where we live. Here's another good example where composition is very much a key to keeping out elements you don't want, along with just the overall atmosphere of the image that helps keep elements out that I don't want to see. So here we have a forest scene with a hiking trail through it. Again, we have no idea where this is taken. This could be some hiking trail way off in some remote area, or it could be in the city. This happens to be in the city. And just to the left of me is houses, and you could probably see houses even through the trees had there not been fog that was pretty dense in this particular part of the hike that I was on. So again, close in location, less than 10-mile drive from my house, and here's the type of scene I was able to find. From an environmental impact standpoint, just look at what has happened with all the reduction in travel that we've had over the last, weeks and months. The air has been cleaner in certain locations, water's cleared up in other locations, wildlife has been roaming around in locations that maybe historically hasn't seen wildlife, just a lot of those type of changes. It's amazing to see how resilient Mother Nature is and how much she really needed this break that we're giving her right now. Here we have another forest scene. And as you can tell, the forest scenes are something I'm definitely into. And it's also something I have the opportunity with here near my house. That's just happens to be our particular type of terrain and environment. Yours might be desert or mountains or near the ocean. But in this particular case, you can see that it's busy. It's not real pleasing as far as a photogenic standpoint. You got this pipe off to the right here, and there's a lot going on, and it's not great from a photography standpoint. But if we look closer and look into these mossy branches, this is what was drawing my eye, and I figured there might be something here if I spend a little time with it. So I stepped in a little bit closer, and I did find something, and here's what I ended up with, which is a much more pleasing scene. It's more simplified, yet it's got some real unique and strong lines with the moss-covered branches. The other advantage that you will have is even if you don't find a photo that you love that makes your portfolio, some wow photo that you take locally, just the act of going through the exercise and trying to take those type of nature or landscape photos locally will allow you to maybe think or look at things differently when you go to other locations that you'd more traditionally travel to. Hopefully this was helpful, maybe a little motivation to go out there and look for photos locally that you might not have done in the past. That's all I got today, and until next time, take care.